Dennis's wish. It was a grey, cloudy day on the Fat Controller's railway, but Dennis the Diesel was in a satisfied state. He was taking a goods train from Vickerstown to Knapford Harbour. Dennis thought he had all the time in the world getting to the harbour. He decided to take his time and admire the scenery around him. "Wow, look at that view," Dennis admired as he reached the top of Gordon's Hill. As he rolled down the other side, he heard a familiar whistle. "Express coming through!" It was Gordon thundering by with the express as usual. Dennis was surprised. Who would ever know an engine to go so fast, he thought to himself. Dennis was still rolling peacefully as he made his way to Knapford Junction, but by the time he had brought his train to the harbour manager was waiting for him. "What took you so long, Dennis?" he asked sternly. "You're late. You should have been here 20 minutes ago." "I'm sorry, sir," apologized Dennis. "I didn't know you needed these goods urgently, so I thought I would take my time." "Well, you need to be here on time," said the harbour manager. "Otherwise, no jobs will be done." Dennis felt disappointed. He didn't mean to make the harbour manager cross. Dennis rolled slowly and sadly back along the main line. The stern words from the harbour manager were still floating around him. Then he heard more whistles. It was Connor and Caitlin. They had just come back from Ulfstead Castle. They were racing each other back to the mainland. As Dennis watched the two engines flash out of sight, he thought to himself, "I wish I can be just as fast as Gordon." Later, Dennis arrived back at the diesel works, and he was ready to turn in for the night. But there was a problem. The motorized door to his shed was malfunctioning. It was stuck halfway through. It was half open and half closed. Dennis's driver ran into the main building to see if there was any room for Dennis to sleep there. A few minutes later, his driver came back with bad news. "There's not enough room for you inside, I'm afraid," he sighed. "Well, there's not much more we can do. You're going to have to stay out here for the night." Dennis was concerned. "But it's going to rain soon." "I know," said his driver, "but there's not enough time or fuel to find another shed. You're going to have to make the most of it. Don't worry though, I'll telephone the workmen and ask them to fix the door in the morning." Then Dennis's driver left for home. Dennis was worried. Dennis tried his hardest to stay asleep that night, but the pouring rain didn't make it easy at all. There was worse to come. The rain was dripping into the inside of Dennis's cab, and the small puddles of water were moving towards Dennis's controls. Luckily, it was a lot brighter the next morning. "Come on then, Dennis," said his driver. "We've got work to do." Dennis was asked to deliver a huge train of steel girders to Alsborough. Dennis still remembered what the harbour manager told him yesterday. He was going to try and be on time that day. But even at his engine speed at full power, Dennis wasn't going as fast as he hoped. "Bother!" he groaned. Dennis once again reached Gordon's Hill. He used all his power to make it up the hill, but his heavy train was struggling against him. But at last he managed to reach the top and was soon rolling down the other side. But then there was trouble. The leaked water from last night's rainstorm had flooded Dennis's controls, and his driver couldn't apply the brakes. Dennis couldn't stop as he raced down the hill, and the weight of his heavy flatbeds made him go even faster. Dennis raced round the bend at the bottom of the hill. Dennis was glad he didn't come off the rails, but he was soon wondering whether that was for the better. He sped along the main line faster than he had ever gone before. "Help!" cried Dennis. He raced under short bridges, through busy stations, and through long tunnels. Dennis didn't like speeding through long, dark tunnels. As he approached Islesborough Harbour, the couplings from his flatbed became loose from the tremendous speed. Then, with a sudden bump, the coupling came off the hook, and Dennis's train rolled away behind him. Dennis was rushing so fast that there was no time to switch the points. Dennis was rolling along the track that led straight into the sea. "Oh dear!" he cried. Dennis's driver managed to jump to safety. Dennis shut his eyes as he plunged and crashed straight into the sea. Luckily, he had stopped at just enough room to make him breathe. Dennis sighed with relief. He was worried he was going to sink to the bottom of the ocean. Dennis's driver ran for help. Later, the rescue party arrived. Ryan was more than willing to take care of Dennis's train, and Sue, Judy and Jerome were pulling Dennis out of the sea. As soon as he was on dry track again, his driver came up. "Well, Dennis," he said with a chuckle, "your wish was granted anyway." Dennis's cheeks started to blush from the mere thought. "Next time, you should be careful about what you wish for," said the driver. "On the bright side," he added, "your train was delivered earlier than expected." And that was enough to make Dennis smile, a small, satisfied smile.